You weren't with us last week to know why we're praying and what it's about. I just want to reiterate. You know, in every crisis, anyone can take advantage of the situation for good or evil. Whenever there's been a global crisis, there are those who have taken advantage of that situation to come up with laws or regulations that do more harm than good. A lot of times it's not even the crisis itself that's the problem, but our response to the crisis. Many times the response is even more devastating. Rights are lost, liberties reduced. So many things happen. And so we're looking beyond the crisis itself. It's nothing compared to what it could be used for. It's the dangerous steps that may be taken by governments or organizations. It's the advice that many may be given as a fallout of this crisis. These are the things we're praying about. As I said to you, the crisis really is nothing. Is what it could be used for. There's where the danger is. For example, I've already given you several examples, but let me give you another one. At a crisis period like this, many governments apply what is known as emergency rule. You know what that really means? It means the parliament is hardly required at such times. They rule by decrees without calling them decrees. They rule by executive powers. It means that the executive is given extraordinary powers to decide whatever they're going to do, because it's supposed to be an emergency. And so since it's an emergency, there's no time to consult with the Congress or with the Parliament. No time for that. So no time for debate. No time for research. No time to find out whether the step we want to take is right or not. No time. Because it's supposed to be a time of emergency. So such times are very, very delicate. Because decisions could be made that are not right. And so we've got to pray. History is replete with stories and stories and stories of how time after time leaders have adopted a totalitarian rule. The question is, at a time like this, who's hearing from who? At a time when nations of their own minds are not sure what to do, and each country is looking to another country to know what to do, and they're all like, what's going to happen? We don't know. Who are they listening to? Let me give you a little bit of an idea why this is so important. The World Health Organization is supposedly an organ of the United Nations. It is described and defined as an agency of the United Nations. So what you would think is that all the nations are involved in their decision making. Yeah. But that is what we call wishful thinking. In the last decade, more than 70% of its income has come from private organizations and individuals, not from countries. What does that tell you? He who pays the piper dictates the tune. What that just tells you is simple. The autonomy of the World Health Organization becomes questionable if it's not getting its money from its representative countries. So question, where is it getting its money from? Do your own research. Where does it get its money from? Because if it's not getting the money from the countries, then the countries don't have a vote. They are, whatever say they have is small, is minimized. So whatever policies then are made by the WHO, where are they coming from? I haven't said anything. I only said you should find out, because we must not be ignorant. I'm only helping you to do your own thinking. Because if an organization like that must be fair and pursue its mandate correctly, it cannot and should not be funded by interest groups, period. As long as it is funded by interest groups, it will not be fair. It will seek to please those interest groups. No wonder the Lord told us March was a month of knowledge. So that's one of the reasons why we're praying. Because our world may not be, you want things to go right. Let me just read something to you here, because sometimes I want to see if I can get this across to you. just want to see. Listen, this is from a thorough research, a paper presented on the WHO 2 years ago. All right? Listen, let me just read this part. Advancing the interests of corporations by the member states adversely affects WHO's unbiased decision making and the means to refrain from conflicts of interest. For example, the sugar industry in the US demanded that Congress end funding to the WHO unless the WHO scrapped guidelines that sugar should account for no more than 10% of a healthy diet. Think about that. The sugar industry in the US approached Congress and tried to convince Congress to withhold funds from the WHO unless the WHO scraps the guidelines asking that sugar should not be more than 10% in your diet. So they became pressure groups. Only God knows how many more pressure groups the WHO suffers from. Similarly, the pharmaceutical corporations, who are also generous funders for presidential elections, value shareholders' demand for profits over affordable access to essential medicines and vaccines. That is quite interesting. Very interesting. You can ask them, say, WHO, how are things? So, just letting you understand why it's important we pray. You shouldn't just keep quiet. The Bible tells us to pray for leaders. Okay? And when he said we should pray for them, he didn't just say, just speak, I bless you, I bless you, I bless you. No, we should pray for them. And when we pray for them, we want God to guide them with wisdom. We pray that they will have the right advice, that they would listen to the right counsel. We pray that God will guide them to make the right decisions. We can't just keep quiet and say whatever happens is fine. No. So, there are those of us who would pray, and that's what we do. We call others to pray, and we pray. Then there are those who are into politics. They will go and argue the matter in their debates, maybe in the Congress or in the Parliament. Everybody knows his own role. So you play your role. I'm playing mine right now. And it's to pray for you and call you to pray and join you to pray, plus fasting. So, whatever God is guiding you to do with the ability that He's given you, you have to also do. Some of you are parliamentarians or you are lawmakers. Wake up to your responsibility. Because this is not the time to sign bills that you didn't read. Do your research.